I'll take that first one. Um, Last week, or the week before, we actually, my God, this is it. This is it. We released the book.
Yes.
To tell the truth, the chains are broken, and this is on sale right now at Amazon.com. This book has been a long time coming,
Yes.
and God is good. The way this thing happened, it happened so quickly. We had it on the tentative contract with another company that we thought we were going to go through and use, but the Lord seemed to give us another opportunity, and a sooner opportunity presented itself so we could print the book sooner. So today what we're going to do is take a little time to talk about how this book has affected our lives as a married couple. Now, first of all, for those of you who don't know about what the book is, this is the story of my life. I was an incest victim, abused by my parents, so-called, from my understanding, biological parents. And it was a tremendous ordeal. And it started when I was 13 and a half years old and went on for 7 years of my life. When the physical abuse stopped, the emotional and the psychological abuse kicked in. I don't know which was worse, the emotional, the psychological, or the physical. Both of them was a tremendous, awful thing to endure. But God did something so grand and so great for me. He did not allow me to take the downward trend that most people do that go through things like that and either find themselves in the throes of drug addiction, pornography, or prostitution, or even, alcoholism. God kept me from that.
That's right.
And also the greatest miracle was that he didn't allow me to experience hatred and bitterness towards those who affected the offense towards me.
Right.
To this day, God has given me the power to forgive and to want to restore the relationships, which is the reason why the book took so long to hit the market, because I was really hoping that we can reconcile in our family, because it not only affected me. See, some of the perpetrators out there in an ordeal like that, they tend to think that it only affected the person that they did it to. No.
That's right.
That thing affects everybody involved. So this thing affected all of my brothers and sisters, even though some of them were not even touched. But emotionally they were. They were scarred emotionally. They were scarred psychologically. The whole atmosphere changed. It went from the innocence of childhood to lying and hiding and deceit. And it was something. And then I had a lot of young brothers who were men, and some of them saw things, as they were growing up, they saw things happening that changed or defined how they see themselves interacting with other women. One of my brothers, and I don't believe he mind me sharing this, and I won't call his name, but he shared with me, he said, listen, he said, I am scared, Bernadette, that when I changed he has a lot of girls. He's a natural breeder of children. He has a lot of girls. And he said to me, he said, I am so scared that I may look at my daughter one day who can't change her diaper for fear that this thing is going to grip me and make me decide I want to change directions and push myself on my daughter and abuse her that way. He said, I don't even know if what would I do if something like that thought ever crossed my mind. And you don't think about people that have those kinds of thoughts either, because the victim is always internalizing the hurt and the pain on themselves. So when you go through things like that, your first thing is always a selfish motive. But see, God did something for me so that he let me come out of it so that I can hear and embrace other people's experience on the other side of the thing, and let them feel and let them share, let them open up and express that kind of fear or that kind of guilt, shame, so that they can understand that God can help them through that. They don't have to fall victim to that.
Right.
They don't have to be afraid that they might wake up one day and not thinking the right thought about their daughter, or scared to embrace their own flesh and blood because they might have this weird feeling about his daughter. So it's a real world out there, guys. The struggle is real. So I'm so glad that we had a chance to get the book written. And I pray that my family understand that this was not an event that was done to out of spite, unforgiveness. That's the least of my concerns. If it wasn't enough for forgiveness, I wouldn't be sharing this. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have anything to do with him at all. But this was a opportunity to minister to others, to share with others, to allow people to open up and find peace, because that's a horrible drop. That's a dark place to be. To live all your life playing charades. I played a game of charades. Looking on the outside, you wouldn't dare think that anything was wrong. But I would go home at night and my pillow would be wet with tears. Or I was in a relationship and didn't understand how to embrace the other person. And in a marriage, the first marriage I was in, for years, playing the game like I was the happy housewife and was crying my eyes out almost every night. So it's a real world, guys. And so today what we want to do is let Mr. Davis, this is our second go round in a marriage together. He was married before, and so was I. And so when we came together, we were, I was 40, I was just turning 40.
Yeah, I was 42.
Just turning 40, so a new phase in life. The book was under wraps then, but I wasn't sure if I would ever bring it out. But God allowed me an opportunity to do so, and I'm so glad that I followed the leading of the Lord, and now the book is out. And I want you to go and visit Amazon.com. It's only $7 for this book, guys. $7. I promise you. When you open this book, you will not put it down until you finish it.
And it's worth every money, every penny.
Okay, so what we want to do is share with you how it feels as a husband to have to deal with a wife that has been abused that way, how it affects our relationship intimately as well as on a regular day-by-day basis. And before I let him share, I will tell you that an angel all the way through it, because some people can't handle that. When I first told him, I made it a point not to wait too far into our relationship when we first met to share that with him. They can't handle that. And, it's a man thing. Some men just can't even fathom, another man having abused his wife or his woman and then go through that process with her. This one went through the process, and we're going to talk about some things that was brought out as we were coming together, as we were courting and dating, and then as our relationship was forming, and let you see how God put his hand in our lives and formed a relationship built out of love and mutual respect for each other, even with all the stuff we were going through. I mean, everything. So, Mr. Davis, I'm going to take a sip of water and you take it away.
Well, I mean, it was kind of hard. I guess if you never been through anything like that, there's all kinds of thoughts that go through your head, and you kind of, as she was telling me about it, you kind of visualize it, and then you try to reason with it in your mind, and sympathize with it in your heart, and it's not easy, fellas. It was something that I had to really think about, and I had to search myself and every part of me. I had to search, and say, hey, how do I handle something like this, but then, I started looking at, okay, well, nobody's perfect. We all have problems in our lives, and we all have things that have occurred in our lives, in our families, individually, and I had to look at myself and say, hey, what if it was on the other shoe, on the other foot, what if it was me, or, and I had to tell her, how would she handle it?
How did it make you feel when I told you?
I had to, it made me feel upset, with because of the situation and because of it happened, you know, and because it was a family member, you know, even if it wasn't a family member, even if it was a stranger, but it happened to her, you know. I mean, I felt upset. I felt, you know, kind of mad about it, you know, because, you know, you feel like, you know, hey, you know, I mean, I don't ever want to see this guy, you know, I mean, and you know, you got to think about it. I mean, you know, this is her family member, you know, I mean, one day you're gonna meet him, you know, and how are you going to act, and how are you going to handle the situation? Are you going to be able to look him in the eyes? Or are you going to have a, you know, hatred in your heart? You know, I mean, for that person. I mean, you know, you don't know until it all transpires. Okay, but I was upset. I was, you know, I was mad. I was hurt. You know, I don't think I was hurt in a way where, you know, like my feelings were hurt. I think I was more hurt for her. You know, because of what she had to go through, and so now. I've got to be the kind of man, if I say I love her, I've got to be the kind of man to be sympathetic to the whole situation, and I got to be able to stand tall and say, okay, you know what, we're going to go through this together, we're going to work this out, and I'm going to be here for you, you know, if I love you, you know, which I do, you know, and I did at that time, you know, so 17 years later, you know, we worked it out, and you know, I mean, it's past us now, and then everything, you know, with the book and all that, you know, I mean, that's what she had to pull up out of her and put in print, you know, and God saw fit that it happened that way because she doesn't need to have all that boggled up inside of her and not, you know, having a way to release it.
I was gonna say, let's dig a little deeper because you said something to me on one of our dates. I think that night in the kitchen.
Yeah, I said that I was going to remove or clear out all the cobwebs, all the things that were, you know, a part of that life. You know, I was going to clean it out.
And that was that right there meant something to me more than, you know, the kids. You know how it happens when you first meet somebody and you think you're going to be serious about the person. And, you know, you start developing a relationship, but then, you know, stuff start happening, and you start really getting to know the person and say, okay, well, now you're making better decisions about, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, or is this going to be a short-lived relationship? Or is this going to work, or is it going to be worth it? And the most important things to a person, to a woman that has a secret like that, is the ability to be able to be forward or transparent in having to share hurt, or sometimes she had to make the decision she can't share that with him,
Right.
and it's going to affect how she relates to him emotionally as well as especially intimately, because now there's these shadows, there's these guilt ghosts that are lingering in the mind, and they're so built in and so entrenched into the soul of the person that it affects how they embrace the love of another person.
Right.
Yeah, here it is. I had to trust him with my heart, to allow him to touch me in an area where I had put up barriers and barricades because I didn't want nobody else to hurt me. And you can imagine, you know, a man initiate hurt on you. Here you are, an innocent child, and all you grow up through for, you know, 7, 8 years of your life being betrayed and continually abused by this person in the worst ways. When you grow up, you finally get to that point where now I'm grown, but now I'm experiencing relationships with a different man, and how do I embrace this? How do I allow me to come out? Can I allow me to come out? Can I have a moment one time where maybe I have a flashback, I was sitting on the couch or watching a movie, and all of a sudden I break down and started crying, and he doesn't understand why. So now I got to go and dig that out. It is important that you have the right person in your life to be able to share. So I know God put us together because that was something I needed, but I wasn't sure if I could approach that way. I had to listen for his heart, and when he said that he would take away all the cobwebs out of my heart, that meant something to me because I knew what was in my heart. And not only did that occurred, that means he was involved. He was interested in helping me get through it. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's easy to make a commitment like that and say that you'll be there for a person. But Rick had to go through the process too
Right.
of how to help me let him get the cobwebs out. Because, you know, women most time, all right, fine, I'll let you get the cobwebs out, but I'm going to take the broom, and I'm going to get the dustpan, and I'm going to tell you exactly where the cobwebs is, and I'm going to do it, and then you come behind me. No, women, we always want to take the lead, but I had to learn how to allow him to do what he really could do. Because if that's the case, I didn't need him. And God knew that. I mean, what, if I could solve my own problems,
Right.
there was no need for me to have him there.
Mhm.
So that was a landmark. And then the other landmark was, I think we were being intimate, and I shared something with you. It was like a Pandora box that opened,
Right.
and I hadn't been able to release myself to share in the intimate part of a relationship with any other man before him on that level, even when I was married to a man for 16 years. It was that relationship was a big joke, quite frankly. The best thing I knew how to do then was just be a mother, you know, a mother hen, just having babies, because not really knowing how to develop or cultivate a love relationship, how to be in touch with me, how to share that. And when I tried to share things with that man, he was on another plane, and it always wound up being a big argument or some kind of breakdown, fallout fight, and we don't know what we're fighting about. And so at the end of the evening, you know, way early in the morning, we're arguing, fussing, fighting. Nothing is solved. We're both miserable, and the relationship is going this way. And you don't know what's going on, other than it just wasn't gelling.
Right.
But when we came together, God gave Rick the capacity of his heart to be able to touch minds, to reach in and then pull me out of my darkness and help me understand that I'm here for you. That is the most important thing when you go through a circumstance, situation like that, because betrayal is a lot of the components involved into an abusive relationship. You go to trust people, and the people you find that you trust, that you can't trust them.
Right.
And so now that part of your relationship is broken. And look, interesting thing is happening. While this is happening, the enemy is very clever. The first real picture a woman ever gets of a love relationship is a relationship she has with her father. That's the first real picture of a relationship that she would have with God.
Mhm.
But she doesn't know this until she experiences a natural love relationship a healthy love relationship with her father. And if she knows who her father is, and she has that healthy relationship with her father, the natural father, having a relationship with God is next to nothing in that sense. She's accustomed now to addressing another man as the father, or allowing him to be dad, or throwing herself at the needs of her father, knowing that dad's going to be there for her.
Right.
That's usually, matter of fact, is the example for every man, every person, but particularly a woman. But what happens when that relationship is broken? What happens when your father is not the man, the ideal father? He's the abusive one. How do you view God then? Because my view of God at that point in time, as you'll read the book, I was like, whatever God it is out there, he ain't thinking nothing about me, because all the stuff that's going on in my life, especially when a man that says he knows God, is being allowed to do this stuff to me, and nobody cares. The betrayal is there. I mean, I went through every level of hurt and pain that you can possibly go through in this book. And when Rick came into the picture, I felt like I'm taking a chance that he's not going to be able to handle that. And, you know, okay, that's heavy. I mean, that's heavy. What are you going to do? That's heavy.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? How do you embrace that? And so what I did, learning how to release me to him, and that has not been an overnight trip.
No.
It has not been an easy thing, guys. I'm telling you, it is easier said than to be doing it, because it is so much water under the bridge, and so much apprehension, and so much guilt and pain and shame and bondage and chains that hold you back. You'd be surprised at the kind of levels that your emotional well-being is at when you endure stuff like that. It's amazing to see people that look normal on the street and endure stuff like that, and you've never known it.
And you know, one thing about it is, I had to, be careful of how I, asked for, certain things, especially when it was intimate things, because of what she went through, and if that was one of the things that, occurred, and then I asked for that particular thing, then it's going to cause her to have a backflash, and then it's going to come out negative to me.
Yeah, because it triggered a response.
Right.
It triggers a reaction based on something that happened, and it's a negative. And ladies, I'm fixing to say something here because I had a family member who read the book, and several issues came out. This was I really hoped that the book would give me an opportunity to have a real honest discourse with my family members, because a lot of them just don't understand. And, they don't understand the hurt. And they've taken a different point of view as if it's, something that could have been different. Yeah, it could have been, but you don't know that until your foot is in that shoe.
Right.
You don't know what you were doing if you actually involved in something like that. But what was said was, did you feel that you could have made something different or changed an atmosphere, or you feel guilty about doing something you may have could have changed yourself? And when you have to ask the questions like that, it's not an easy answer, because sure, at that time, at 13 and a half years old, your innocence is broken, your trust is betrayed. People that you come to on the street for help, they turn their back on you. Family members are there that they turn away. They know that something is going on. They won't reach out to help you.
Right.
So you don't know how to reach past that to get help. So what you wind up doing is going into survival mode. And ladies, you have to understand that when it comes down to asking for that kind of thing, it's not that you, and I'm fixing to say something. You might think that there's something wrong with you when you turn down or don't enjoy a certain experience in your intimate part of your relationship with your husband, because you have not identified the hurt that's been attached to that activity, or there may be some guilt attached to that activity. If there is an abusive situation involved, there is no need for guilt.
Right.
Because, and this is why, see, that's trick of the enemy. This is why, if a person took advantage of you and manipulated you, which this person did to me, even to the point of taking Bible scripture and making it say something that it didn't say, and to give validation to do what you want to do and say it was okay. When you do stuff like that, you take a child now, innocence, who trusts their parents, and you turn their whole world upside down and make it a lie. And so how you respond in that is not in a sense that should give you guilt, even though it does. Because all you're thinking about is, I could have done something different, or what did I do wrong, or what did I say, or what was I being a bad girl, or was I being fast? I mean, there's a whole world of questions out there that has to be answered before you internalize that guilt on yourself.
Right.
And what happens is when you do that, you shut your husband out, and he doesn't understand that you're saying no, not to him, but you're saying no to the experience. This is where you're going to have to go into prayer and ask God to give you courage to sit down and have this conversation. You have to have that conversation.
And fellas, it feels like, and when that happens, it feels like a rejection. There's plenty of times where I could have just said, this is not even worth it, But I had to realize that, okay, she's not rejecting me, she's rejecting the experience. okay? And I had to change my mindset and my thought pattern, you know, to be able to cope with it. And I had to ease, you know, my way into that suggestion, or that, you know, what I wanted, you know, okay? But, you know, going back to, you know, when I was married, my first marriage.
And you shall know Jesus, and Jesus will make you free.